Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me at TEDxSpokane. I was going to make a crack about staying awake after lunch, but I think the slants probably took care of that for me. I'm very grateful. So, growing up here, I always considered myself a global citizen, which might seem surprising since I was born and mostly raised within about a 15-minute driving radius of this stage. But it's true. My parents moved here to Spokane from Ghana, but they always maintained a strong connection with our family all over the world. On a typical Sunday morning at our house, you'd find us trying to calculate the time differences between London, Accra, and Spokane so we could say hi to Grandma and Grandpa on Skype. Daylight savings time was the worst. But with that large multicultural family background, I always thought I had the diversity thing down. I felt globally minded, accepting, and open to new experiences of the world. I'd never have considered my social life to be insular or sheltered. That is until my run-in with the racist iPhone. Now, I'll preface this by saying that it's not the device's fault, but after telling the story a few times, the nickname stuck. The short version, I received my first smartphone very much behind the times a few years ago, secondhand from a friend of a friend who I'd never met. So I'm scrolling through the nice new apps, and I come across some very odd text messages. So I chose to click on the text messages, and I saw some of the most hateful, bigoted language I'd ever seen in person. And it shocked me to my core. How could somebody within my social sphere subscribe to beliefs like this and consider them normal? I cried a lot that day trying to reconcile something impossible. But beyond the harsh reminder that bigotry is alive and well, it also made me realize how narrow my own social sphere was. I'd chosen to surround myself with people who were diverse, but who were very like-minded in many ways, and we often chose to ignore or to ridicule other views. How many of us go around our lives thinking we're aware and exposed, but having no real understanding of the people who share our world? And how many of us use our technology to reinforce those personal bubbles? I didn't think about the fact that I was living in an echo chamber, and so I never thought about the problems that could result. Now, our theme today is connection and intersection, and that's extremely timely. We live in a world where technology brings us closer together. We have unparalleled access to knowledge about the world and the people who share it. But most of us choose to live in very circumscribed bubbles. We don't seek to understand or inhabit the experiences of others, and we don't seek to invite them into our own worlds. It'd be unreasonable to suggest that in a planet of 7 billion we could meet everyone, although I'd love to see what that potluck might look like. But even on a local level, we've built extraordinary layers of social segregation. Now, I'd like to think that segregation was a term that belongs somewhere in our history textbooks, but it's alive and well and flourishing and profoundly damaging to each and every one of us. America is segregated by age, by race, by income, class, and many other factors. As an example, outside the family home, the elderly rarely spend time with children or young adults. And Americans over 60 say that less than a quarter of their meaningful interactions occur with people under the age of 36. Our schools are just as segregated, if not more so, than they were when it was mandated by law. Photographer Eric Fisher created these extraordinary maps illustrating racial divides in America's cities. Look at New York, or Los Angeles, or Chicago. You can actually see the lines that separate us. We don't engage with each other, and it's causing a world of problems. Scientists who study empathy have noted that as wealth disparities increase, we're less able to feel compassion for people with less privilege than ourselves. We are less able to discern pain in people of different races. And when it comes to the loss of empathy, there is no best-case scenario. We end up distrusting, fearing, and alienating each other. And in the worst cases, it devolves into conflict that causes us to see each other as abstract enemies instead of individuals. When we build our society on that foundation, we lose sight of our basic humanity. So we have a problem. How do we start to build the bridges that bring us back together? Technology seems like the obvious answer, since it has the power to transcend time and distance and scale. But technology is both the hero and the villain of this piece. Sure, we have amazing technologies. I can WhatsApp my friends in Harare and Beijing, or I can work from Accra with a team in Seattle, or I can follow a revolution as it unfolds on Twitter. But that doesn't mean that my digital life isn't just as insular as my offline one. This isn't a new subject for TED at all. Dr. Sherry Turkle shared it with us 2 years ago in Connected But Alone, when she spoke about the fact that sometimes we pay more attention to our devices than we do to each other. Ethan Zuckerman said the same in his talk on Global Voices, telling us that internet users experience a tiny slice of the multicultural web because we don't really listen to voices outside our own social networks. Professor Cass Sunstein warned us about the daily me. Online, I can choose the news I listen or read, I can choose the people I interact with, and I can choose the opinions I want to hear. And the more that I choose, the more that Google and Facebook will feed me exactly what I want. We've all been at a table like this by now, where everybody's sitting around texting or trying to achieve the elusive 2048. And it seems that in these cases, our devices aren't doing much to build a basic human connection. So how are we going to redesign our technology in a way that promotes fulfilling social interaction and in a way that starts to break down the barriers to access that we ourselves have built? A couple of months ago, my boss called me up. I work for a small software company called ScrumPoint. And he calls me and asks if I've ever heard of something called a double. I told him I hadn't, so he sent me over to the website of a company called Double Robotics. Now, he was very enthusiastic, but I was a little skeptical, since to me, this thing looked like the love child of an iPad and a Roomba. But as Michael explained it to me, this was a telepresence robot. It would allow me to call in from anywhere in the world and to drive it around a new location, regardless of where I was. The doubles were originally built for the office environment, for remote workers to come in and interact with their teams, or for supervisors to go on remote visits without having to travel. We decided to bring one into our own offices and test out the possibilities. Now, we learned a lot on that first test drive. I personally discovered a profound new appreciation for depth perception, and I discovered how challenging it is to take a robot selfie without help. But beyond the fun of being in two places at once, we realized that these devices could have real potential for marrying the best of technology with some of the most important aspects of human interaction: attention, novelty, and cooperation. Now, speaking of cooperation, I asked my little brother to come and help me with this demonstration today and share a little bit more with you about how these devices work. So let me see if he's here. Hi. Hi. Oh, Quincy, hey. Thank you so much for coming to join us. Are you able to navigate past the drum set?
I think I got it.
Oh, good job. Come over. You can come right to my left. That's perfect. Turn around a little bit so everybody can see you.
Hello, greetings from Redmond.
So Quasey's calling in from our offices in Seattle right now. So he's at work. I skipped work for the day to be here. And I just asked him to come by so he could share a little bit about how these work. And it's a very sci-fi experience to see a device sort of rolling into the room with a familiar face lighting up the screen. You can sneak up on people, and you can interact with them in a way that's strangely human. It allows you to get taller. He's normally the tall one in our relationship, so he's not used to this viewpoint. But it allows you to make eye contact, to have a physical presence and a body language, and to engage in a way that marries the physical with the technical. Now, a coworker who might not want to make eye contact with you in the hallway is probably a lot more likely to approach if you show up in robot form. Now, beyond the novelty of seeing a device like this, there is definitely something to be said for the attention aspect. It requires a completely new perspective on your environment. Even in a familiar space, you have to pay close attention as you navigate carpets, thresholds, and drum sets. And you're forced to pay close attention to your environment and the people who share it. In terms of cooperation, we have to admit that a robot with wheels has certain limitations. You can't really knock on doors, and stairs are still a distant dream. And we know that the technology is going to evolve to overcome these challenges. But in the meantime, sometimes a double needs a friend in order to interact safely in a new environment. So, Kwesi, thank you so much. If you want to just perch here and watch the rest of the presentation, that's fine. Hey! Okay, good, you are paying attention. Now, doubles are already in use in spaces like education. This picture was taken in Kodiak, Alaska, where a school district has brought them in to have additional teachers and to facilitate teacher training. At ScrumPoint, we think that beyond education, there are applications for technology like this in healthcare, in community institutions, and perhaps in museums all over the world. Imagine a children's hospital where kids in recovery can interact in their classrooms and keep up with their classmates. Imagine an elder care facility where a granddaughter living thousands of miles away can drop in to take a walk with grandpa anytime. Imagine opportunities for students to receive scholarships to conferences and events where economics or travel might be a barrier. Imagine the opportunities for medical interpretation, with hospitals able to call upon a translator in any language when they have patients in need. Imagine an art lover with limited mobility who's able to take an after-hours tour of the most exquisite museums in the world. We envision a time when perhaps everybody might have the chance to be a double for a day. We'd love to imagine the opportunities for people to not only explore and experience other environments, but invite others to inhabit their own worlds. We know that there are technical and social challenges still to overcome, but we feel that the opportunities are really boundless. And as a parting note, I'd like to encourage you to think about how you shape your own use of technology. As I said, we have the tools, and we have the ability to reach out, and it's up to us to make the choice to use these devices intentionally to engage. It's an intimidating prospect, but I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who once said that you should do something every day that scares you. And frankly, I've already taken care of that by being here right now, so it's your turn. And one final thing before I go. I discovered a Kickstarter campaign for a build-your-own telepresence robot. And the components, as you may have guessed, are a tablet and a Roomba. So if any of you have the opportunity to participate in that and build one, please do roll by and let me know how it goes. Thank you.